Oh, all right, we're live now. Well, welcome everyone here from Paging America and here from Wendell Potter. Good to see you all. Just want to jump right into it. In the coming months, the Trump administration plans to launch a pilot program in 6 states that will use artificial intelligence to determine Medicare coverage for certain procedures. It would work by having the federal government hire private companies to use AI to determine what procedures Medicare recipients could qualify for. And actually, they also said in the announcement they would incentivize denials essentially to these private companies. We've talked about these AI death panels on the podcast here before at Paging America, but I wanted to talk with my guest here today. So joining me is health insurance whistleblower and author of Healthcare Uncovered, Wendell Potter. Welcome, Wendell. Thanks for joining us. And, to start off, I want to get your reaction to this, not only as a former healthcare executive who sounded the alarm on the for-profit industry, but as an expert on transparency or lack thereof in the healthcare insurer process. But welcome. Thanks.
Well, thanks so much, Rob. And that particular pilot project that has been announced by the Trump administration's CMS or its division CMMI, which is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation. You're right. It would introduce the use of AI into the traditional Medicare program to determine whether or not someone gets the care that his or her doctor says they need. It's just absolutely the wrong approach. And I can't believe that the administration would even consider this because of all the attention that's being focused on prior authorization in the Medicare Advantage program. It's rampant there as well as in commercial insurance increasingly. And big insurance companies have been making increasing use of AI to deny requests for treatment and medications and tests, or to deny paying claims after service has been delivered. And that, frankly, is what this would do. It would be after the fact in many cases, rather than just necessarily also refusing to cover something, but on the back end deciding not to pay for it. I've met actually with the Trump administration's folks who have put this pilot together and encouraged them to reconsider this. And there's even been um, a measure in the Appropriations Committee that was approved on a bipartisan basis to try to stop this. The problem is it's already funded. Congress really can't stop it necessarily. So we have to just hope that the administration will see that this is just a really stupid way to go.
Yeah, and so I can tell you as a physician, particularly as a spouse of a family physician, and I hear stories all the time. My wife comes home about a patient, one recently, who they found cancer on a scan, and they wanted to get a PET scan, right? A PET scan, a more specific kind of looking for active tumor in the body, looking for metastatic disease, helping oncologists and surgeons figure out how they treat this patient. And the insurance company said, no, you can't get that until you get tissue. So now they got to go through a multi-week process, which they were going to do anyways. They were trying to do it in parallel to speed things up, right? I mean, cancer and metastatic cancer kind of has a timeliness to treatment, and survival can really depend on that. And now this person has to wait to see the surgeon, wait then to get the procedure, wait to get the tissue sample back and all that, to then get the tests they know they need anyway scheduled, which will be paid for. But the insurance company is saying, hold it, let's put the brakes on. I mean, we see this all the time in patients coming in who couldn't get, a test, a procedure, a treatment, and then they show up in the ER. Um, what do you think? I mean, do you think there's any benefit potentially to this? Do you think this is really all about, I mean, we see it in private insurance companies for profit, what is this for Medicare? Like what are they trying to do here?
It makes no sense. I don't know. I think that uh, I, I can't ascribe motives, but I think some folks are seeing an opportunity to make some money here,
Mhm.
and prior authorization is a big money making feature of health insurance companies. Big companies like Cigna and United have divisions that make money on prior authorizations and claim denials, and so I think that's part of it. On the other hand, there are procedures that are, I think, legitimately subject to prior authorization. But this is the wrong way to go. And it's important to remember that the traditional Medicare program does not use prior authorization except in a very, very small, limited number of cases. Again, it's prevalent in Medicare Advantage, which is why so many people are concerned and try to get out of the Medicare Advantage plans. They find out after they signed up in many cases that an insurance company bureaucrat somewhere is going to say that they can't get what their doctor says they need. So it's a really wrong way to go. Fortunately, I am hearing from Republicans as well as Democrats that this is just really a bad idea. I was in Texas over the past weekend, and one of the speakers is a former Republican congressman who, while he was talking, said this is just a very bad thing to do. And in particular, as you noted, using AI to do
Sure.
this, not a human being. And so I'm hopeful that this can be stopped before it's implemented.
Right. And the original intent, I think, of prior authorization, you have maybe a physician, right, or a panel, someone at the insurance company reviewing a request for a procedure or a treatment, and they look at it and say, "Boy, this doesn't seem medically necessary. Let's deny it." And then the physician ordering then can or the patient can appeal, and they can almost have a conversation like, okay, here's why I think maybe this person who's 60 years old with chest pain needs a stress test. You tell me why you think they don't, or the alternative. What this seems to be doing is just, I mean, using an algorithm like this, whether it's AI or it's just algorithmic, and humans using an algorithm, this seems to be just batching large numbers of individuals. I think I saw some statistic, and the number of prior authorization or the number of denials that happened in an average year at several insurance companies, it would be 1.2 seconds per denial that it would take. Like that's not possible that humans do that.
Right.
Um, but like that to me seems like a whole nother layer of harm that can be inflicted upon people when you just have algorithms sort of batch denying people by the thousands, and then depending on a physician or a patient, particularly Medicare patients, most of them are elderly, having to then use technology, having to figure out the appeals process. I think I read somewhere only 1% of denials are appealed, but 75% of those appeals are actually successful. I don't know
Yeah.
if you can speak to some of that.
Yeah, it's true, and the reason why it's such a small number of appeals to start with is because the process is so burdensome. Patients don't know what to do. It's usually news to them that this is even a thing, and then for doctors to have to get involved in trying to get a denial or delay overturned takes up a lot of time. And a lot of physician groups have said that they have to spend an inordinate amount of time, not on patient care, but just dealing with these kinds of issues. And it's coming at a time when there is real bipartisan support for reining in these prior authorization uses and the use of AI in healthcare. I've made presentations to doctors who are in Congress who are Republicans, and this is one of their top issues is to really address this. They want to make, among other things, to make sure that when a prior authorization is used, that the doctor on the other end of the insurance company is a doctor in the specialty of the
Mhm.
doctor who's requesting the procedure for the
Right.
patient, and also to make sure there's a short period of time for a decision. But you're right also in noting that when someone does appeal, the chances are very, very high that it will be overturned. So that shows you that a lot of these denials are erroneous. They should not have been made in the first place. So
Right.
it's worth it to do it, but it just is a real time suck. And people don't know that they even have the option of appealing in many cases.
Yeah, I have no basis on which to say this, but I worry that the director of CMS, Dr. Mehmet Oz, we know that he has profited off of privatized Medicare, Medicare Advantage, and now he's overseeing that whole system. You just wonder if somebody somewhere, right, somewhat behind the scenes or behind the curtain, is standing to profit off of these companies that are going to be tasked with issuing these denials. I don't
Right.
know. I hope somebody's looking at that. I
So do I.
certainly don't know how to do that. But yeah, it's really scary. Now, Miles Baker, who he's my co-host on Paging America, he's going to be interviewing the lawyers who have sued Cigna Humana United over these mass denials, and actually, people have lost their lives. And so now it feels like if we're introducing this into a more vulnerable population, primarily elderly folks or people with disabilities who have straight Medicare, boy, that seems like we could have real harm out of this, not just,
Oh, yeah.
annoyance and doctors and patients having to go through more hoops, but actual harm and actual people losing their lives.
You're exactly right. I'm so glad to know that this law firm is really taking the lead in filing these cases, and they're very, very important because these denials and delays can be deadly, and they often are, uh, as you well know. And as you said, sometimes it can take days and weeks before a procedure is finally approved. But sometimes a patient gets sicker, and in many cases,
Mm,
die before they're even able to get the procedure that they need. It happens all the time. You may remember that back during the debating what became the Affordable Care Act, the opponents of that legislation were alleging that the law would create death panels in the government. It was never true. But what we have, and I'm going to be blunt, we have death panels in private insurance companies because they have this ability to deny needed care. And it is medically necessary care. And we're seeing the
mm.
evidence of that from those procedures that are denied but later overturned when it is finally appealed.
And I mean, this better than anybody because you were there, right? You were there on the inside at Cigna. I mean,
I
I don't
was.
know if you could speak to that. Like, was some of that part of the tipping point that kind of said, "Hey, I can't do this. I can't be a part of this, and I need to blow the whistle on this."
I did, and back then it wasn't even as prevalent as it is now. When I say this, I'm talking about prior authorization. The thing that was really the straw that broke the camel's back for me was having to be a spokesman for the company when it had denied approval for a transplant for a 17-year-old girl in California,
Hmm.
uh, and there was a liver waiting for the transplant. It had been provisionally approved. The family was there. The surgery was scheduled. And then at the last minute, one of the surgeons took the family aside and we said, we can't go forward because we haven't gotten clearance from Cigna, and
Hmm.
the surgery had to be called off. The family didn't have enough money to out of pocket to pay for it, and they raised a big stink about it. And they got a lot of publicity. It became a huge, huge PR problem for Cigna. Eventually, the company reversed that denial and agreed to cover the transplant. But once again, we're talking about a delay. And she got
Right.
sicker and just wasn't eligible for the transplant. And she died 5 hours after
Uh,
Cigna said it would pay for the transplant, and I just couldn't
mm.
do it. That you hear about these stories every now and then, but they happen all the time. It's just the occasional story that makes the news, but people need to know this can happen to you too.
Yeah, the ones we hear about seem like the tip of the iceberg if you're on the inside. Yeah. Hey, while I have you here, I had to ask you about an opinion piece published last week. It was September 9th in U.S. News Opinion by Michael Cannon from Cato Institute. I'll just read the title of the piece, and people can imagine what it says. I think you're familiar with it. Health insurance companies are actually the good guys. And basically, kind of the gist, he's talking about sort of blaming the government for denials and saying, well, health insurance companies actually let us all give them our money to pool so we can cover each other in sort of this kumbaya community effort. Do you take any kind of issue with that premise, that title?
Yeah, in fact, I'm acquainted with the author. And whether or not he's part of what I'm going to call the charm offensive by the insurance industry, I don't know. But it would fit into that category. What I used to do for a living at Cigna, when the industry or the company was under scrutiny, like it is now once again, uh, they call friendly journalists and organizations, and they provide significant funding for them. It is it really is what I refer to as a charm offensive to get people out there saying, well, insurance companies are really the good guys. But it is so wrong in that approach. For one thing, our healthcare system does the money that is pooled is done in a way that really penalizes a lot of people, and in particular, people with chronic conditions and people who are older. A lot of people have to get their coverage through the ACA marketplace, and a big feature of that is high out of pocket costs. People have to pay many cases, thousands of dollars out of their own pockets before their coverage kicks in. I used to sell those kinds of plans. I used to not literally sell them, but promote them, and to get Americans to believe that, as we said, Americans need to have more skin in the game.
Mm,
That's just a way to obscure the fact that insurance companies are making money hand over fist and have no real interest in keeping the cost of healthcare down. In fact, as the cost of a hospital stay or prescription goes up, they just increase their premiums, and they figured out how to suck huge amounts of money out of the pharmacy supply chain. And again, to make money out of denying care.
mm,
There's a thing called the medical loss ratio in health insurance, and that is the ratio of how much they actually spend paying claims compared to how much they take in premiums. And they want it to be as low as possible because they don't want to pay claims. That's just their business model.
right. Right. I mean, it makes sense. They are a profit industry. Bring in more money than you put out. That's how you get more for salaries and
Yeah.
and shareholders and all that. Um, Kind of last thing I know, a couple months ago, you published something on your Substack, the Sunlight Report on United Health Group. I definitely read through that. I mean, it's a brilliant piece, kind of trying to unravel one of the biggest and maybe the biggest private insurance company out there and how they do business. I don't know if you have anything you can say to let people know about that, and then where they can find that.
Well, yes, Sunlight Report was something that we put together, and you can find it, Sunlight Reports and United Health Group. United Health Group is, as you said, the biggest health insurance company. It's the biggest healthcare company, period. In
Mm.
fact, it's the third largest company in America. I don't think many people realize how fast the company has grown, and it's grown largely through acquisitions and makes a lot of money, as we said. Implementing these policies that make it difficult for people to get the care that they need. We found in our research that it has almost 2,700 subsidiaries and that it has grown, as I said, by buying smaller companies. And it has increasingly gotten into healthcare delivery. Another thing that I don't think many people realize it is the biggest employer of physicians in this country. It has bought
Hmm.
hundreds and hundreds of physician practices and clinics, home health agencies, even hospice operations. So it is a company that even if you are not enrolled in a United Healthcare plan, you're affected by it from cradle to grave. It's massive.
Wow. Well, thank you for doing that. I encourage people to look at that. And before I let you go, where can people find you if they want to read more, they want to see more about what you're
Well,
doing?
also on the Substack platform, we have a newsletter, Healthcare Uncovered, healthcareuncovered.substack.com. You can find me at Wendell Potter on social media. Our advocacy group is the Center for Health and Democracy, and we spend time, aside from our journalism, we advocate for reform. So check us out and follow us.
Great, great. Well, Wendell, thanks a lot. I appreciate this. I know you got to catch a flight in not too long, so thanks for hopping on before that, and keep doing what you're doing. And we'll obviously be looking to talk to you again because what you do really is helpful to us, and I think in the end going to be really helpful to my patients.
Well,
Thanks.
thank you for what you do, Rob. You're a real warrior, a real champion, and a hero of mine too. So thank you so much for having me.
Should we just stay here for 10 minutes and compliment each other? That
Let's
seems like
do
a good
that.
use of
Yeah,
people's time, right?
yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind missing a flight to do that.
Okay. All right. All right. Thanks, Wendell. Have a good one.
You too. Take care. Bye
All right.
bye.
Bye.